That guy, that's a generational talent.
Generational talent.
Once in a lifetime generational talent.
I think he's a generational talent.
He's a generational talent.
Two generational talents.
Generational talent might be the most overused phrase in sports, but that's the exact term people have used to describe this year's #1 overall pick in the PLL draft, Brennan O'Neill, since he was in 8th grade. By definition, a generational talent is someone who only comes around once in a generation. Think Michael Jordan, then a generation later, LeBron James. On a lacrosse field, O'Neill is that player. The Denver Outlaws rookie attackman proved it while dropping 9 points, including the game winner in overtime, in a comeback win over the defending PLL champions. In that game, just the second of his professional career, O'Neill showed 3 traits that, when combined, constitute a generational lacrosse player. Those traits are: 1. Elite athleticism, which breaks down further into the categories of strength, speed, agility, and coordination. 2. Superhuman skill. Every generational talent needs that special move that only they can do. And 3rd, the clutch gene. You gotta be able to put the team on your back when they need it most. For a closer look at #1, let's start with O'Neill's strength. He's listed at 6'3" and 235 pounds, so basically the size of an NFL linebacker. And when you roll back the film on his first goal of the 4th quarter, you can see just how much power a player of that size can get on his outside shot. But take note here, O'Neill stepped all the way into this shot and accidentally had his toes on the 2-point line. 14 seconds later, O'Neill gets the ball again, and this time you can tell he's thinking about where the arc is. Watch the replay. You can see he kind of kicks his front foot out to avoid stepping on the line. And even though he's falling down, he's still strong enough to blow past the goalie and bury it from 2-point land. Now, let's fast forward to O'Neill's 8th point of the game. This goal tied the game late in the 4th quarter, ultimately forcing overtime. Remember, O'Neill is bigger than every player on the screen right now. He's got 15 pounds on Utah's largest defenseman, and yet he moves like this. On this play, O'Neill runs his man perfectly into a pick, and then look how he blows past the switch. That's pure speed from a massive human being. Here's another example of O'Neill's speed, only this time with a twist. O'Neill, this time dodging down the alley, runs right by the defense again, and he creates enough separation with the pick that he's able to get his stick back to the inside and rip it with his strong left hand. The fact that he's able to flip his hips on the run and not lose any speed on either his dodge or his shot is rare athletic ability for a player of O'Neill's size. To wrap up the point on O'Neill's athleticism, here's a great play that illustrates his agility and coordination. This was kind of a scramble drill play, and the ball winds up across the formation where O'Neill gathers it and hits this insane combo. Watch closely, that's a ground ball right into a roll dodge, then he goes one-handed righty before coming back and finishing with a left-handed leaner. That takes incredible body control to hit that combo. And again, you're combining it with a freakish blend of strength and speed. Okay, now let's move on to O'Neill's second of 3 generational traits, his superhuman skill, which in his case is an unusual shooting stroke. O'Neill has this super exaggerated windup. It doesn't look like anyone else's shot on the planet, and that must make it difficult for goalies to read. And let's keep in mind, the goalie O'Neill lit up in his comeback against the Archers was Brett Dobson, who won MVP of last year's PLL championship game and was coming off a clutch 22-save performance in the season opener. Heading into this game, Dobson was the hottest goalie in the league, and yet he simply could not locate Brennan O'Neill's shot down the stretch. I want you to watch the windup on O'Neill's lefty sweep that tied the game. We've seen him do this so many times at Duke. It's his signature move, but the head of his stick is behind his ankles before coming all the way over the top with a lefty hammer. As a goalie, how do you read that? On the game-winning goal in overtime, O'Neill had a quicker release, but it was just as confusing for Dobson to read. After receiving the skip pass, he drops his hands and lowers his shoulders like he's shooting low. He then pulls it back up and fires high-to-high sidearm. You can tell this release fooled Dobson because he guesses low with his stick and gets beat over his stick side shoulder. O'Neill has the most unique windup and deceptive release in the game. He won't be the most athletic guy in the field forever, so his one-of-a-kind shooting stroke has more potential to be his lasting trademark on the game. And now, time for the final generational trait, the clutch gene. O'Neill displayed this in the comeback against the Archers by putting the team on his back down the stretch. Brennan O'Neill got a touch on every possession in the 4th quarter, and he only missed 1 shot. Not only did he score the game winner in overtime, he also scored the game tying goal to force overtime, and he had 6 of his 9 points in the fourth quarter. People will always say Brennan O'Neill didn't win the big game in college. Well, he's now done it for Team USA and in the pros. Draw your own conclusions about what that means for Duke, but O'Neill has now stepped up on a couple of the biggest stages outside of college. When you put it all together, the raw athleticism paired with the superhuman shooting stroke coming through in the clutch on the biggest stages, you have Brennan O'Neill. Tune into any sports show tomorrow and you'll likely hear the G word. But with Brennan, it's not just noise. O'Neill is truly generational.